There we go. We're in business, hopefully. Yes, good, good, good. Okay. Sorry about that. Faffing around with technology again. Right, let me just set this up a little bit better because this is a little bit far away. And just going to move this. It's difficult because every time I do this, everything gets reset. So I have to start again. Okay, so welcome to anybody who joins. And this is my little session today where I'm going to go through, well, where we got up to last time with the rig was I basically left you with a little task if you wanted to, where you could copy and paste this eye across. So I'm going to show you quickly how you would do that now. Super easy. So to copy and paste the eye, we just Control C, Control B, B for Bravo, paste special. And then you've got create new columns. And that's going to create new timing columns, okay? And then you've got reuse existing elements, which means any drawings that you have in one can be reused in the other. I will end up probably renaming this like you can have I1 and 2. You can have left and right if you want to, front and back. It's up to you, really. I'm going to take this eye, and you don't have to flip it. You can just move it across. I have to make sure that I have everything in it. So I haven't added a deformer to that eye. I'll show you how to correct that now briefly. But to make it stay in position, i.e. if I was to click on this peg and press the letter R, it doesn't do anything. But if I click on this one and press R, it jumps behind that one. And anytime that's going to happen, you kind of want to set what's called a static transformation, okay? So that is this static transformation. And this thing, you can pop under there. And once it's been moved, just bake immediate parent transformation. And then you have to reset the top peg. But the pivot moves back, right? And I learned this trick recently. Who was it who I saw do it? It was, no. Okay, he's going to come back to me. Something else on YouTube was suggested to me, and I saw it, and I've never seen it before. It was really cool because the thing that's annoying with this is that the pivot moves back, so you don't always want to do that. So what you do? I know who it is. It's Sean. Sean. Sorry, Sean, I'm forgetting your surname. But he has a Draw Sean, like Draw SEAN. Draw Sean is his, I think, is his YouTube thing, and in his little like one of his series, I think he's got something about this. So that's one of the cool things about the little Toon Boom community is that stuff will get filtered down through people, and it becomes part of the collected knowledge. Like none of this stuff that I am showing you is, as far as I'm aware. I mean, I might have thought, oh, that's a good idea, but I'm guarantee somebody else has done that somewhere else as well. So it's nice to kind of like see ideas gradually get spread around, and then people's ideas, the good stuff gets kept, and useful things and so on. So thank you, Sean, for sharing this. I'm going to do, if I remember rightly. So what it was you didn't move it in there. You added another peg, Control or Command P, above this moved eye. Then you move it on this one. Now, let me see if I can remember this rightly. Otherwise, I'll have to go and watch this video. Static transformation. Let's go for this. Yeah, and I think you just pop it in there, and then you bake immediate parent transformation, and then you just delete this. And now the pivot is correct. The static transformation sits above, And if we press R to reset this, because basically all we did is we used that peg as a temporary thing to move it, bake the information into the static transformation, and there we go. I always call them like shorten a lot of things, like a lot of people do, because it's annoying to have such long names. So yeah, that's a good tip. It prevents the annoyance of having to move the pivot all the time. It's not a big deal, but it helps. So that's a cool one. Right, this one here, this eye. I know this was about head turns today, but I am going to go into this a little bit because it is useful still. Let's draw a deformer. I'm going to use the envelope, put the pivot down here. Nothing too fancy. Holding down Alt or Option to close that up. Holding down Alt again to kind of adjust these handles and keep them in position. Transform tool to come out of the edit mode. It's added deformation eye. I'm going to be really particular. Keep to my naming setup. Now, so this is different now to the one what you copied and pasted on the right. If we want to have that copy and paste correct, sorry, I've got a wonderful like summer cold that has been given to me by my 2-year-old. I didn't even think that could happen, but there you go. So I'm just going to copy and paste this group and then just go into this one instead. And I want to paste special. Keep those things on. Oops. Because remember, anything that can hold timing can be a clone. So if you move one, it'll move the other. But that's an easy way of updating things is you do a little bit of like open heart sort of Toon Boom surgery. If you've got something going up to a top peg here and down to a composite in here, you could potentially totally fix things inside this one, mess loads of things around, and you could just copy the whole lot. As long as it goes up to one singular point and down to one singular point, you can copy and paste special them across inside the groups once they are set up. So it's a quick way of updating things. If sometimes happens with production rigs, things get tweaked, you know. So now if we turn on the deformers here, there, and that would be my preference of how to tweak this eye shape into something that's makes it a little bit more asymmetrical rather than exactly the same. Maybe narrow it off slightly, because this is sort of leading me on to what I was going to show you today, which is the process of creating a head turn. So it's like when you normally turn things in Toon Boom, you have this thing of how do I make it turn smooth, and when do I switch to a new drawing, i.e. I'm popping from one thing to the next. And it's a common question, I think, a confusion amongst people. Sorry, my webcam's a little bit low. It's a confusion amongst people when they're starting out because they sometimes will get overwhelmed by the complexity of the software a little bit. And the thing to think about is take it back to that simple cutout animation idea. Yeah, so it's like cutout pieces, and they are cutout pieces until, I mean, the deformers stretch them and extend how useful they are. But at some point, you have to switch them. So I don't know. For me, I'm not a massive fan of these rigs that use like these really obscure pieces that deform them into lots of shapes to make it almost a 3D rig, because it almost defeats the purpose of it being in 2D. If the design calls for it and that's what's in the production, hey ho. But maybe if it's your own project, or you have a bit of creative control over it, I would be considering like, is this the best tool to use for it? Because it's impressive to create these rigs that turn in 3D, but I do think there's a point where you go, this is the pose that we're going to use a lot, and I don't want to make it difficult for the animators to work into that pose, i.e. the shape they're using has already been deformed loads to get in there. You kind of want something that's quite simple to start with. So that's what I generally, as I'm going through it, I'm going, am I pushing this too much, or should I just make a new shape? Are they really going to use the frames, the tweening between these two poses? Is that really going to be useful? How often is it going to be used? Are they just going to create it if it happens, you know? So let's just have a look. I don't know if I created a deformer. Yes, I did. The eyebrow. Cool. Okay. So a couple of eyes. I will put a deformer on the nose as well. Oh, there's one on there. Haha, perfect. So I've created an envelope deformer. Again, like I said, they're the most popular ones to use. And we have this ear over here. Let's go to the drawing view, press the letter K. I didn't close the gap. The letter K is the quick toggle the strokes on and off. I use the close gap tool because it creates a straight line, the shortest path to close the gap. The stroke is like draws a wiggly line sort of thing. So that's all good. I'm going to fill this in with my skin fill. And let's go back to the node view. The ear needs a deformer on it. So again, just double checking our tool properties that we're on the envelope mode. I'm probably not going to deform this no way enough to need all these points, but I will just generally try and keep it to the edges that are needed. Remember to click that one again before you click the end point and hold Alt, because it draws the deformer point from the one that you've got selected. And then holding Alt again will help me keep a straight line. Then the transform tool. Cool. Okay, so the reason I did that is so I can copy and paste this ear as well. Okay. And you might remember me saying in previous weeks, copy, paste special, the Z depth thing, the way they connect to the composite, left to right is closest to furthest away, but you can move things in Z depth. You can key them in Z depth. So although this one is here, and it's connecting to the back of the composite, the far right, I could key that into a different position. Again, we'll use that nice little tip, Alt, pop the peg in there. We'll move it on this one. So I'm going to flip this one this time and tilt it a little bit like, oops, didn't set the pivot correctly. Oh no, I did, beg your pardon. It's just on the wrong. I don't mind positioning things on here like this. That's okay for me because it's the flip is what I want to avoid. It's the reason we're using the static transformation is because we want to avoid that weird thing when you reset it and it goes right behind. Honestly, I don't find people do that much nowadays, so it's not the end of the world. But it looks neater. And we'll go with stat trans 2. Nice, that's popped into position. So what I'm talking about, the Z depth, is although that's at the very back, if I was to click on this peg, hold down the Alt or Option key with my mouse over the camera view and press the down arrow, you see how it comes in front of the head? Okay, so, and you can see up here, it's also changing. That's the coordinates toolbar. So we can key it into place. So it's not the end of the world if you get it locked in that position. That's just your default. So that should be the easiest one to do. Now, I'm going to hit look save on this. How's everyone doing, by the way? I know I got rattled into this today. Hopefully people are okay. What have we got here? Is that going to show? No, that's not going to show. Couple of thumbs up, thumbs ups, if that's how you say it. Okay, so let's go into the next bit. I did another drawing, and on this drawing we have some working out. So as I'm not approaching it like this is a finished character design, this is how it should be. You know, I'm just doing it as I go for a YouTube series and probably a bit more how you would approach it if you were doing your own project. So I've kind of worked out roughly what the head would look like maybe at the side. I thought maybe of adding a single like hoop earring, a bit of interest, asymmetry. I did think about putting like this eye makeup on the character, getting this kind of like black thick eye liner on there. Kind of goes with the cap a little bit more. I'm thinking this person's maybe like in the maybe slightly punk to metalcore scene, who knows? Yeah, I'm just thinking, doodling ideas about how I'm going to put this character together. The main reason I'm showing you this is because you can see this head shape is not the same as this head shape. I was playing with the idea of tilting up at the back. I played here with the idea of rounding it off and different things from the back, bit of a Lego brick kind of design. And this is the place for me to do it because I'm not in that character design pass process. It's not something I'm working out first. So it's okay for me to do this. I know some people might frown at that, and maybe I'm wrong for, for doing that, but for me, it's more creative, especially if you're working on your own. If you're in a studio, you have to do what you're paid to do. But when you're doing your own projects, it's okay to kind of work stuff out, as far as I'm concerned, as you're going and just have fun with it. And it's much closer for me to traditional 2D, where you're kind of like drawing things. Okay, you've got a model, which is for me in this case like the initial front drawing and the idea, but then I can make something work for the shot as long as it still feels like the character. So that's what I'm trying to do with this rig. Obviously, a rig is more, there's more repetition in it because people are coming back to that reset pose all the time. So it does need to feel like the character. But I want it to be appealing as opposed to perfectly correct in 3D. Yeah. So I want to lean into that slightly more stylized thing and make an appealing version of the character. It helps when you have things like a single earring, a specifically recognizable, silhouette to the hair shape, and the eyes and the cap and so on, and colors. They will all help make something visible and recognizable straight away. So there's a slight taper to the head that I'm thinking of about these rounded corners. And you can see I'm thinking about how I'm going to do the hair. So I've got this piece here. This is all going to be masked or cut by the head shape. Then I've got hair 2 piece here. This is like a little bobble hair tie, then hair 3 and hair 4. You can see a bit more how hair 4 works here. It's just a little piece at the bottom. So I'm trying to split it up into all of the bits that are going to be movable, and it's going to make them easy to key. I want to avoid like a complex shape and creating it as one, because that can be difficult to animate. If you Let's just have a look what this comment is, by the way. Yeah, if you are trying to animate something complex like that, it can be very difficult to reset to. Oh, okay. Hi. Somebody's saying about will this live be visible on your YouTube channel after it will end? I'm on vacation. Thanks for joining me on your holiday. Internet is bad. Yes, it will be on YouTube. It goes into the live section. There's a whole playlist of each one of these, so you can just watch it at any point you want. And thanks for saying you like the character design. That's very kind of you. So yes, feel free to save your internet and watch it later on. So where I'm at right now, this design, the head shape's wrong, but I kind of like how the face is working. The ear is being cheated because it's bang on the side here, but then it's kind of being pushed back. That is like a classic me sort of bad, I guess, character design. It's anatomically incorrect, but I quite like that on my characters. I don't know why, I'm always drawn to it. So I'm going to stick with that. I just want the space for the head, the face to read and to act and perform and so on. So this is what we're going to go with. So I'm going to show you how I would quickly put these hair pieces in here. Importantly, hair 2 is not visible in this first image, but you can see it does sort of taper in here. So I probably will put it in, because otherwise it's going to do this weird thing where it's going to immediately pop into visibility. And although this is kind of like a 3/4 front view, which if you remember from my previous video, I was saying I try and avoid bang on front views apart from to work things out. Same with the side view. You can see it kind of flattens it. It's okay in this character because it's quite like square and geometric looking anyway. But so I probably would use a side view in this one, but I'd avoid the bang front on because the character is going to have to sit slightly off front all the time to make it look appealing and not feel very, very flat. So yeah, I'm going to put a little bit of that hair taper in now. So let's crack on with this. Okay. So what pieces do we have? So this is currently hair and very descriptive. And because I'm going to have hair 1, 2, in fact, this is just 1, but I've forgotten to have this is going to be 2. So we'll just have this as hair 1, hair 2, hair 3. I'm wondering if they're never going to be visible at the same time. We could do that. That could be quite a fun thing to do. So we'd go hair 1, 2, 3. This would be 4 and this would be 5. So I'm going to change my numbering slightly, or maybe I could just make my life a lot easier. I can have hair 0, 1, 2, just because I'm not going to change the labels on there. In my design, by the way, where are we? There we are. So you can see there's the initial rough sketch. I drew these lines on the color art layer, and then I drew the extra pieces on here. Let's change them, because otherwise we're all going to get confused. You'll also see that I've created a palette called Build Tools, which is just things I'm going to use to draw the sketches and things. They're just for that purpose. Then there's a CH, which is like character, so you can have PR for prop, CH for character, BG for background or something like that, or EN for environment, something like that. And I've called this character for now Thori, which is meant to be like 3. My 2-year-old says 3 a little bit like that. So that's why it's called that. I might change the name, but that'll do for now. Important to keep those palettes separate. So you want to keep your character with the object, the thing. So the character, the prop, you want to try and have palettes for them all. It might seem overkill. And if you had a show or something with lots of palettes on it, lots of props, you could maybe group them into one palette because it's easier if they've only got a couple of colors. But importantly, the characters need to have their own because they tend to have a lot of colors. And if you change the palette according to like it's nighttime or it's winter or it's really sunny and we're on a beach, you can quickly change all of that palette at once, and it just makes it a lot easier, especially in studio situations for rendering and things like that. So let's get rid of this. We are going to call this H1. I am going to do this because otherwise it's crazy talk. 5, 3, and then 2 is going to be that one. Okay. Hey, Daniel, thanks for listening whilst you're working. Appreciate you joining in. Okay, so we've got H1. So I'm going to go back to my node view, and I'm going to change this to being hair 1. You might think I'm being very specific and labeling things as I go. You can go and correct things later on, but I do find it makes life so much easier if you get it right to begin with. I'm also just going to shrink this up for the second and add another peg, because I know all this hair, like definitely hair 1 and hair 2 and hair 3, I'm probably going to want them all going up to the same peg so it can be moved around and shifted as like a hair piece. Yeah. Hair 4 and hair 5, the ponytail part, probably going to leave those as is. And I could also have the hair bobble or the hair tie as H6. I probably won't use that label. I'll probably use the actual like hair tie because it's more descriptive. But let's just make this. I am a big fan of using the hair and then like master or something like that if it's for everything and it's the master peg of everything. But this one is just hair top, so that's cool. I guess you just want to establish your own logic whilst you're doing these things. Now, what color are we going to have this hair? Let's think about this for a second. I do enjoy making the colors because obviously, especially if it's your own thing, you can change it as much as you want. You can also go and change all the lines. You don't have to have them as black. You can go and recolor them. One of the benefits of cutout animation or rigged animation is you do have this option to very easily go in and just change the colors. It's a very bright orange right now, but we'll stick with that. We could do something really cool with this eyebrow. We could have it change color as it overlaps. But that might be for a different thing. Let me just check. Okay, so I filled the color in there. I'm going to put it on, cut it, and just paste it on the color out layer because I am going to use the auto patch. I just want to cut that very end line off here. So I'm just zooming in. Oops, don't want to do that. If I turn on the snapping, it should allow me to just pink there. Is that going to allow me to? Okay, in which case, what we will do is we'll control click, create a point, snap that in there, delete that bit. If you've still got a little bit of something and you're like, this is not quite working, again, control click, taper that one in. You can even hold down Alt, adjust this. So you can get really precise with the Toon Boom pencil, like the subtools here, make it really nice and neat. So we've got that piece. Let's go back to our node view. And this is hair one. So I'm just going to copy, paste special, again, reuse existing elements because I kind of want all the pieces in there. There are fancy ways to rename things if you do it, if you copy and paste in the right way. But for this, it doesn't really matter. You can do like the change prefix or suffix and things, but not too fussed with that. It's not a massive time saver. Right, we're going to chuck these into a composite. I just copy and pasted that comp because the composites are, they can't hold timing. So therefore you can just do a normal copy paste. And then remember with this, if we want to flip it and it not go behind, we have to add a peg. And then we'll static transformation. And then we will click on this one, flip it. Where's my little flip button gone? There it is. Move it on this one, turn off snapping. I know some people are absolute shortcut fiends. They have everything set to shortcut. And I am not one of those people. I like to use the manual ways. Mainly because when I am working on Toon Boom, I'm often like using the pen on the screen. So it's like quite an easy thing for me to click a button. There are certain shortcuts that I probably should change and get used to, but old habits die hard and all that kind of thing. It doesn't massively impact my speed. I think with animating, like showing deformers and stuff, that's mainly what I use Harmony for, or have in the past. So here we go. Let's do a little auto patch. Now we're not going to really jump the hair backwards and forwards. It's going to sit as like a flat thing. So when we do that, we don't need to worry about what I would class as the super patch. And the super patch is just my term. Again, I don't know if anybody else has used it before, but for me, it's original. A super patch is just something that I use when it's an auto patch that works in Z depth. And it just is a way of telling the software when you move it in Z depth, we don't re-show that line because that's how auto patch currently works. If you move it in Z, one of these hair pieces, it will break the auto patch. But for now, it's a very handy little tool. Again, you can relabel this AP. If you are using these things all the time, you find you've got a lot of repetition. You can have your library open, you can just drag them in. You can have a folder in your library called like build tools again, and it can just be all these bits and you can bring in, you can chuck them at the bottom of your composite and then just copy paste them. There's quick ways of doing this stuff, especially if you're on a job and you're building lots of things. Auto patch is very simple. It works like a sandwich. So you just plug it in and then sandwich the other piece and it will patch. And let me show you, here goes the breaking. So as soon as I went Alt and down, it broke the auto patch. The way to do this, I'll show you in a different video because it's kind of like overkill for what we're doing right now. But yeah, you can make it so that it patches and it works in Z depth still. So there we go. We've got auto patch set up for that hair there. And then we've got hair 1, hair 2. We need hair 3. I am not going to copy paste these ones. I'm just going to create a new drawing. Control or Command R, hair underscore 3, add and close. Oh, remember, extend exposure, because otherwise, I mean, it's not a massive problem. I nearly said it's not the end of the world again. Keep saying that lots. Yeah, it just means you have to go in and go to the end of the timeline and press F5. Flipping heck. I was forgetting what the shortcut was. F5 to extend the exposure. You can collapse everything as well with 0 and press F5, and that makes it nice and quick. Control P. And then what I will do instead is I will go in. I'm going to copy the drawing, just the outline, to save me having to draw it again. And I'm going to paste it into here. I'm just going to whip that around. You see how that's kind of almost fits that little piece there. We can now use our perspective editor to just drag that out a little bit. The contour editor itself, if there's too many points, you can use the smooth editor, just smooth all these off a little bit if it does anything. Contour editor, you can delete these points. I don't want to get something too big because it'll create a massive bounding box, but you can see, ooh, that's a bit of a naughty one down there. Don't want that one. Okay, so we've got something nice and curved. I'm just thinking about how this is going to be used. I want to avoid like really pinching corners like this, because it's rare that you're going to want a hard angle. Like if something pinches together like that, you can't really unpinch it. When you do this, you get all this weird gubbins and stuff from the line that pushes up. And if you have a curve and you try and pinch it into a thing, you have another kind of overlap squash. The software doesn't like it. So if you want something that's going to be curved, it needs to be straight, and you can turn that into a curve or curved itself already. And the only time to create definitely straight is like on the eyebrows, when they might bend convex or concave different ways. If you want a point, then create a point. But remember, that is going to be a point. So that might be if the nose is pointy, and there's always going to be a point on the end, you might create that. For this, I'm thinking I might use this hair 3 piece to kind of smooth the whole back piece of the hair that comes down from behind the ears and down. So I'm maybe going to create more of a circle shape, like a bit of an ellipse. And that'll do. And then maybe up here, this isn't going to matter too much. We'll maybe make a utility point, and then we can use it if we need to use something, bit of a soft point in there. Cool. So we've got something in there. I'm going to quickly check where we are in the chat. Kyle's here. Thanks very much for turning up, Kyle. You've caught me on my day of having a slight cold, so thanks very much. Kyle is Kilowatt, by the way. He's done some very nice animation. I would imagine is on the channel Kilowatt Studio. So go and have a look. Also did some BBC iPlayer series, well, pilot, but was pitched as a series that I had a little hand in. But it's really good. It's called Dave's Games. I'm pretty sure it's still on iPlayer. So go and have a watch. It's very good. Set in the Northwest. It's funny, like, there's all this stuff. You go to, like, if you're in animation, you go to these animation events and people are talking about, oh, what are we going to do? We need to, bring some more talent back into the UK and homegrown stuff. And I don't know how we're going to do it and how we're going to fund things. And I'm like, there's a show here. The pilot's been made. Maybe just fund that one. But yeah, it's, I don't know. Let's not get into talking about people with money. Right, cool. Let's fill this thing in. Where are we? Okay. Yeah, you know, if you ever lose your artwork in Toon Boom in the drawing view. So the drawing view is this like endless, vast universe of nothingness, and you can very easily be on the wrong art layer and not see your artwork. So let me show you now. Let me zoom out and really mess stuff up. And I'm over here. I am like going, where is my art? I'm zooming in and out, can't see it. So there's a good trick. Turn on this all-seeing eye, the eye of Sauron, and then click your black selection arrow, and in your tool properties, turn on apply to line and color art. That actually applies to all the art layers. And then when this eye is on, it allows you to influence all the art layers. Then you just move your mouse over the drawing view, Command A, Control A, and then Shift and M for Manchester, and you will see it's recentered. And then you just need to turn your art layers, flick through them, turn the eye off, and okay, there it is on the line art layer. So I see sometimes people create like absolutely tons of artwork because they think there's nothing there, and it's just because they've lost it. It's a bit of a weird one. Okay, so now we've got our piece of hair there. I've created it on this angle so I can move it across. Remember, turn on this apply line and color art. When you get savvy with your camera view, I know, even though I've got the line art selected, I know I've got work on the line and the color. So I can just strike through those things, pull them over here, maybe tilt it a little bit. Just go for this. That'll do. And I'm probably going to change it around a little bit, actually. It's hard to see when it's sitting behind the ear, but we'll fix that in a second. And then I know I've moved everything because I had the correct thing turned on. So I've moved importantly, using the black selection arrow, I've moved the artwork. So it's like erasing it on the paper and moving it to a different area on the paper, like erasing, redrawing. The thing when you move it as a peg, it's the peg is actually like keying it into position. So if we reset that peg, it will just jump back. And that is not really what we want for a default position for a rig. Let's have a look at the node view. So first of all, this hair 3 is sitting behind the ear. Now we've got all the hair going into one composite, yeah, which is kind of what we want, just because it might be useful for rendering. Maybe we have an episode where the hair is kind of glowing with some magical dust, or who knows what's going on. But I would generally not break out the composite here because of how many connections are going into it. So keep it nice and simple, group it all together. Really cool. But we want this ear, which is right down here, to be on top. Now, do I move the ear along? Probably not. Can't be bothered with that. It's fine as it is. I can just click on the peg, and this is one thing that we could very easily just hold down Alt or Option and then press the down arrow and key it forward in Z space. So that's a nice one that, I mean, in this instance, you can see the ear moving it furthest to the left isn't going to have a huge impact, but I do like to keep certain things grouped together, and it's a nice example of you don't have to move things around so much. You can, if you're working in a team, really get on people's nerves very quickly if you start moving things that are set in position, because everybody gets used to knowing where something is when they're doing the build. So again, keep your life simple. Let's patch this one. So this one is very similar. We're going to again just copy, normal paste, Control V, because it doesn't hold any timing. Pop that one into there. And that has not worked, which is interesting. Oh, silly me. Oh no, that's correct. Let's just check. Okay, good. Live troubleshooting. Love it. Right, so I'm just checking the Z on my coordinates toolbar up here. If you don't have that, you can just right click and choose coordinate, and it will give you one there. Or you can choose the coordinate and control points, which is a tab, and it's very similar. So first thing to do, checking that the Z space is correct on the pegs. They're all set to 0, which is all good. Then, well, first of all, my pivot is a million miles off, so let's sort that out. Okay, so hold down Alt, press up and down. Nothing is changing there. We have, not quite sure. I'm having a slightly brain dead moment here. Wondering why. So let's just, oh, it's probably because this thing is patching. Let's just remove that one for a second. Will that make a difference? Okay. Let's try. And this this is where I start to just plug stuff in left, right, and center. See, that can't go there because it will then break the other auto patch. So, oh, that's a bit bizarre. I moved that by mistake. Ah, sorry, it was on frame 2. I'd keyed it into position. So I'm wondering. Oh yeah, okay. The auto patch needs to be at the far end. I didn't. I can't remember that being a thing. But anyway, it still works in terms of the sandwich. It's just because there's another extra piece of artwork. So I've got all my artwork kind of on the right, and then the patches are going to the far left. This is very much a first step of the problem solving in Toon with rigging. Just plug stuff in and see what it does. Especially if you are like, oh, can't figure this out today. It's going to help life a little bit. Oh, I've got my guide unlocked, so let me go in there and lock this. It's from when I was drawing on it earlier on. Wicked. So this all looks like garbage right now because it's all kind of not being cut by the head or anything. I'm just going to move that into position a little bit more. I do think we'll do something fun with this, not today, but how to have this hair make the eyebrow appear differently when it overlaps it, because I don't want a hard black outline on everything. I'm going to change the colors and stuff, and I will post the link to this rig with the recording when it goes up to the YouTube channel in the playlist for the character rigging live, or Toon Boom rigging live as it's called. But yeah, we'll do something cool because that's kind of like a nice patching system that it's kind of a if this then that sort of process. So if this overlaps this, then change it to this color, which is procedural. That's very similar to a lot of other software. But before we get into that, let's fix this. So it's our last win of the recording, well, the live stream today. I kind of always keep the fill of the head, the face, till last because it hides all my guide work and so on. If you are doing that and you're like, oh, I need to see it, but I don't want it to be, like so solid. My dog's fallen asleep again. He loves listening to me talk about rigging. It puts him to sleep in like 10 minutes. So he's snoring his head off. But yeah, you can temporarily move the alpha down of the fill just in the palette. And just remember to turn it back up at the end, and it makes it so that you can see you can fill things in, have the effects happen on stuff, but still see what's underneath. So let's patch this bad boy. Right, okay, so we've got the hair, and we have, where's the head? There it is. So there's our head. We need some art layer filters because we're going to need the line art to sit on top, and we want the color art to cut the hair. Yeah, we're not going to use an auto patch on this because we maybe will use Z depth as well at some point. And also we've just used that method, so this is a different thing. So let's press the return key, line art. If you are wondering as well what we are going to do next week, I'm going to move this along a little bit because, well, first of all, I didn't get to what I wanted to, which was turning the head. So the title of this is a lie. I'm sorry, but we will do something about that. So you see, I did my thing of I moved the hair now, so it sits between the line and the fill of the head. So we've got the hair going into there. If you click on one of these, you can see that goes into the line. If you have a really complicated rig and you click on a port, as it's known, if you press the up arrow, it will do this nice little animation and guide you through the process. So you can press down, you can press right, press up. So when you're like zoomed in on a really detailed rig and you're like, okay, what's next? Zip, 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 and up you go. And then, yeah, so now we've got this color art. We just need to apply the cutter. So search for that. Hold Alt or Option to snap that into that cable that already exists. And we're going to zip this one into here. If it's the wrong way around, double click the little Venetian mask sign, you know, like you're at some sort of jazzy party. And there we go. And remember, we added that peg, hair top. Okay, so the pivot's way off, but let's move that up here. So yeah, I am going to rename this recording hair setup or something like that, because that will make much more sense. We do have the eyebrows sitting on top right now. They were underneath in the design. I'm going to keep them like this for now for visibility in terms of like acting, because when I change the line of the hair to like a darker orange, I'll actually show you how I would do that. Not first without saving. Remember, we just used the normal black, so I'm going to just click on the hair and press the plus to duplicate it. And we'll create this hairline, and then we'll just drop it a few to a darker color. Might not be dark enough. So you can just use the fill tool, or you can use the ink tool that will only fill lines. We can go through these like so. It's a good time to do it now, because if you remember 1 and 2, they are the same thing. And then 3 is just one drawing right now. If we click off this and then go to the color, let's see if we'll pull it into a bit of red. Yeah, so that's cool. One of my favorite things as being a super indecisive artist, especially when it comes to color, is I love the ability to just tweak the palettes afterwards, and it changes my finalized design. Yeah, big fan of that. And I'm probably going to might do the eyelids a different color as well, just so it's not quite so heavy with the line. Cool. So we've got this nice little hair setup. If we click the peg, we could make a selector for this, but this is going to be very easy for us to just tweak it around. We can temporarily move this pivot here and move it about if we want. We can adjust this. And if we have deformers on these things, let's just turn off the cutter. So just D to deactivate. Let's put a deformer on this. So one. I'm just going to keep these deformer points really, really simple. So a lot of people would put one in the middle there. I am going to put one. Actually, let me change my mind slightly. I'm going to put one in the middle there, and I'm going to use. I think it's too much to just have 3 points, so I'll go with this one, and then hold down Alt, and then all the way through. Nice, really cool. These handles, by the way, you have to experiment with like what works for them, because the thing is, you don't want them to be too long. They become too unwieldy when they're massive and long and so on, like these ones at the back end. They are very difficult, like when you compress them. If you remember before, I've said that you don't really want to be compressing artwork into them, because it kind of squashes in on itself and makes a real mess. But if the handles are too short, if you drag them, it does a similar thing. It does this shearing effect where it pushes artwork everywhere. So you have to experiment and find what works. And it is very trial and error, because every design is different. Let's see if we can get away with a copy paste special on the deformer. Apparently we can. That's good news. So the reason I tried that then is because this already had a 2 on it, and this is just going to be 1. So that's going to sort of correct itself. There's only one deformer attached to it right now, so that's okay. The association is correct. as in when I show the deformer, it's showing the right thing. And the final test would be to just move it and check it doesn't move the other one, which should be fine. So we can add a deformer to this as well. I won't do that now because it's the same process. Turn the cutter back on. And then we have the hair nicely masked out. I am going to wrap for this video and just make this one about hair. But what I'll do is, if you want to follow along, I'm going to post this version, and you can create this if you want a little homework task. Create H4 and H5. You can create a little hair bubble. These I'm going to probably set to the side here with their own parent peg so that these can be moved as one. And they will be a child of the head because I want these to follow the head. And what we'll do next week is we will turn this thing. So we'll key it out in space so that we have some nice poses and get it looking nice. I might tweak the colors and so on, but you can tweak yours. I'm probably going to experiment with this eyeliner situation, this earring. I might do the big hoop earring, and I might do that with an auto kind of thing. When the character moves, it auto animates. It's not a perfect science, but we'll see how it looks. Okay, let me go back to this, see how we are. Thank you for watching, everybody who's joined and stuck with. And yeah, thanks for sticking with my slightly nasal, cold-induced voice today. I'll post this in the comments thing, the link. I'll post the link to the people I have mentioned as well. And yeah, hopefully see you next week. If you are around tomorrow, I'm doing my little co-work Wednesdays, which is a much more like relaxed affair where it's basically just a place to come and have some kind of like a virtual studio thing where people are just working in the background. You can chat and then you can see me doing some live animation. I'm going to be working on my iPad on my short film. It's just hand drawn, so you can have a watch of that and laugh at me trying to draw a slug, which is not as easy as you would think it would be. Okay, thank you everybody, and I'll see you again soon. Bye everyone.